Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
we can.
Hello.
Everybody can
How
hear
you
me, and
doing?
Julian's back. Okay, wonderful. So now that everybody is here, because you weren't here to start with, we have nominations in this room. How do we feel about that?
Oh, very excited.
Really? I mean, are you
Yeah.
shocked? Because you shouldn't be. Like,
Oh,
seriously.
we're shocked. I mean, I'm shocked.
Ouch.
But Anna probably expected it. I don't know.
Oh my God, yes.
It's an ensemble film. I wasn't expecting it.
Oh,
No,
absolutely.
neither was I.
One of the things I will tell you is that it was there was tough competition, meaning for the two male leads and the two female leads. There was a lot of conflict between the judges as to whether both of them should be nominated. So realistically, you could have had 4 nominations for the actor category based upon what the judges had to say. They were really impressed. It was really hard to try to distinguish between who should be nominated and who gets that little nudge. You know what I mean? I want to start off by talking about one of those contenders, meaning Samantha Brooks was in the running originally by at least 2 of the judges, which I'm sure doesn't shock you. And what I thought was so neat about what the judges said was it wasn't about her name. It really was about her presence and her literal parallel relationship that she carried with the different characters. So tell me a bit about, because she's not here, Samantha, and more importantly, why her and why now, as far as giving her this opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Samantha was actually just a neighbor of mine, but like
Oh,
weirdly enough, that it was just like she lived because this was filmed in my apartment and she lived 2 blocks from there. So, she just mosey up like 2 blocks for rehearsals, for shooting, whatever.
sure.
Um, and she went through the audition process just like everyone else. And I think what we really felt is that she kind of nailed that earnest every woman quality to Laura,
Mhm.
and like she could pull off being like jealous, obviously that Charlie seems to be kind of fooling around a bit, without ever seeming overbearing. And we thought that that was such a neat balance that she was able to do, that and she was willing to put in the rehearsal and the
Sure.
effort, that it was just a pleasure to have her.
Oh, I imagine so, definitely.
Mhm.
Well, and the other thing is that I noticed that the chemistry between her and the other females, she kind of, what do we call that? She glides right on in and she becomes very
Yeah.
grand for like a minute or how many minutes that she's on screen and kind of glides back out. So I find that fascinating. She's got quite the career ahead of her. I can see she's very young, but she's very versed in what she's doing and she comes to the table prepared. That's very, very clear. She was very spot on, from one cut to the next cut to the next cut. As a judge, I notice and pay attention to how smoothly things mold from one moment to the next. So good choice as far as that goes. Anna, your boyfriend's a jerk. Like the dude's a jerk in the movie. I'm like, look at Mr. Handsome, and I love that guy though. I mean, excellent performance. And
I'm gonna tell him you said that.
oh, but that's meant, by the way, in the most loving way. Obviously, some of the best guys on television and film are those that we don't like very much, but we love their character and their presentation. So, I want to ask you about your portrayal, in that you're obviously maintaining a friendship and a flirtation with one, and clearly having an active, what you feel is a relationship with another. So, you seem well versed enough to need very little direction from Julian, or was it kind of a step-by-step process where you took a part of what he built and a part of who you are to bring it together?
That's a great question. I like Julie. This again, like was such a collaborative set, such a supportive set. So I felt pretty confident in what I was bringing to the table in terms of Charlie, Caroline, and Stephen's relationship.
Right.
But it was very helpful to have Julian there to be like, maybe just kind of guiding us along the way. But Gabe, the guy who plays Stephen, is such like a kind, charismatic, like very lovely person. So again, it wasn't hard. It makes your job so easy. And he and I it was just a joy. So I'd say it was a mix. I would say it was Julian's guiding us, but both Gabe and I had very good impulses along the way of where we were.
Oh, you betcha. I had a non-actor friend ask me this, so I'll ask you this, because most oftentimes this doesn't come up on the panel, but since it did in this movie, I have to ask. So she was like, ask that girl what it's like to be kissing all these guys. She's like, what a great job that is. Well, I'm going to pay you to make out with XYZ amount of people. So she's
It
like,
was really hard. It was really difficult. Hard to
I just couldn't stand it. I get it. I imagine, the hardest part, and talk a bit about this, because we talked a lot yesterday about technique with some of the other films. And what people don't always realize when you don't work on a movie set is it's not as romantic as one might appear, meaning that if you set up something, it's legitimately the camera in your face and everybody's in a room, etc. So it really isn't as glamorous, is it, as one might think?
Well, I wouldn't say it's not glamorous, but it's like a feigned intimacy where
Sure.
it's like we as actors are portraying something that should be a private moment or a private fight or like that moment of butterflies before a kiss. And
Yes.
yes, there is your director and your camera and like your sound person with the boom like right there. But if you're focused on what you want in the scene and you have a good connection to your co-star or whoever's in the scene with you, that all goes away.
Sure. I imagine so, and you're able to focus. Now, alternatively, James, let's turn it over to you in terms of, obviously you're in kind of the same boat where you have your one relationship over here, and then of course you and Anna have your budding friendship. So let's talk about the friendship component first. You play this off as though you're kind of standing in the background, kind of hoping that she'll notice you. Is that kind of the right take, or am I missing something here? Because I'm like, we always feel like you're just waiting for her to catch up to you.
Absolutely. No, there was a big part of it where I was, trying to portray this sort of unknown attraction, this connection with Charlie and Caroline that Charlie maybe isn't fully aware of yet. He's totally gunning for Laura and, very all in. Commitment, that's another question, but yeah, no, absolutely. I think that is the right take, is that, yeah, it's just this sort of unspoken, maybe even as far as taboo desire.
Oh, sure, you
Like,
betcha.
I feel like we spoke so much, we did so much table work on like what the dynamic of this friend group is and who feels like they play what role, and the idea of causing a shift in that is what I think James was talking about, of just like, oh, I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think to do that because we are friends. Like we have been friends for the longest. But then when you introduce that thought, how does that shift everything because they are such a close group of friends?
Absolutely. Well, and the one thing that I took from the themes of this is there's a lot of sensuality that seems to be going on cut by cut by cut. Obviously, at that particular age, there's a sexuality factor. But was it important for you to be as real as possible? Because at that age, obviously, it's pretty hard to consider the idea of settling down. Yet you have one of the core couples where when faced with the potential of one of them literally leaving for good, meaning have to go back to their country, have to go back to their home, you tackle that and you seem to make that more of okay, we're going to stick it out and stick it together. So there is some component here of a more lasting relationship, which is kind of surprising. You almost expect everybody to have their flings and have their, frustrations and others and kind of move on, but you've built a core relationship with a core couple. Yes.
Yeah. No, I think that's that's pretty accurate. That I think we wanted June and Ed to kind of stand out from the crowd and be like, you do have, like, I think every one of us have those friends who are like, yeah, they're practically married, they're going to get married. And we needed to put like the biggest obstacle in their way. We needed to put the US government wanting to get Ed out of the country as the obstacle, just because that connection they had was so, established. That Anna was talking about like friendship connections and how the group dynamic. And I think in everyone's head in that group, oh yeah, you guys are just together. Like, no one wants to consider the concept of like single Ed or single June. It's like an entirely
they're like the
foreign
parents
idea.
of the group.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and realistically, June's character is another one that was just on the brink of getting nominated as well. She stood out a lot. I mean, she brings a lot of unexpected fire to the table, and not just with her her male counterpart. I see where she's got interaction, obviously the drunk girl and the whole bit, and she's just like, what the fuck, all of a sudden out of nowhere. And I was like,
Yeah.
that girl's got some spunk to her, right? So I'm like,
Yeah.
almost when you kind of feel like you're sleeping at the wheel, like, okay, we're moving along in this. Here she comes along and she's like, boom, fresh new element. Every time she walks in the room, it's like an explosion. So I'm curious, kind of, do you know her background? I don't know a whole lot about her, but I'm curious because I haven't met her. And I just to know, like, if some of her other roles were like this, and this kind of makes her ideal for this portrayal.
Oh yeah, Lainey's got a very strong personality. That it's kind of like that in real life. That she walks into a room and you're like, oh, Lainey's here. And she's great. Like, love working with her. It's always such a pleasure. That she came into audition for June, and there are some times in auditions when it's just like, wow, it's so immediately evident that like this person is so right, because a lot of times like there needs to be a lot of direction and things need to happen and explanations. But with her, I think that the key to June was, you're right, that fire, that kind of ability to be like, I decorate the boys' house, I'm like in charge of like a lot of things. And to just really give it to Ed, that like you're screwing up, man, what are you doing here, with our like very close relationship. That yeah, no, Lainey, great actress, and really brought a lot to the role of June.
Oh, I imagine so. Now, I was trying to remember, I took a head count yesterday as best as I could of how many locations you have. And it almost looks like, if memory serves me correctly, you really only are in 4 areas. Does that look about right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so we
no,
did
that
get
that's pretty much right. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
because yeah, like, to be honest, we're a low budget production. We didn't have any kind of aspersions about it. That I think when Kevin and I were writing the script, we were very much like, we need to stick it to a certain number of locations, just because we can't do every location in the world. But at the same time, what I did talk about with my DP Maxwell is that we need to present these locations in different ways, because especially because the party is literally repeating. Like, we want to change color schemes. Like, one room needs to be red, another room needs to be blue and green, just so that way an audience member who walks out to the bathroom can come back and very clearly visually see, it's like, okay, they're in this space now. Or like, it's later in the night because all the colored lights are on, instead of like earlier in the night when it's just this neutral wash. So again, we wanted to keep a minimal number of locations, but have visual variety to that.
Oh, absolutely. And it does well, meaning that obviously they're not sparkle and shine, like you're not by the Empire State Building. You've got tons of lights and this and that, but it's effective and it's efficient, actually, because you can still, your camera work is still being done, even though you have these little areas inside the apartment, the upstairs, and all that good. I like the accentuation. Was that on purpose, the accentuation with the staircase? That seems to play, it almost has a role of its own. That staircase, there's a whole lot of stuff that goes on up and down on them damn stairs. I'm just saying.
I love that staircase so much. Even just living in the apartment, that was the first thing I saw, and I
Nice.
fell in love with that staircase. But,
Sure.
that's why we wrapped string lights around it. Really wanted to highlight it, just because most apartments don't have that, and it was just kind of a cool thing to play with blocking wise. That it's
Sure.
like, oh, you guys can sit on the stairs, or like, oh, someone can suddenly descend on a scene, like Stephen can catch Caroline and Charlie kissing because of this staircase. And just playing with those levels as a director from a blocking perspective was really interesting. And so it was nice to have that as an element in the apartment.
Oh, you betcha. Now, Benjamin, I want to turn things over to you a bit because, of course, everybody else seems to know the capacity of the people involved here. So tell us a bit more about your background. And then second of all, tell me a bit about, someone mentioned what it would be like if you took your movie and tried to film it on 8mm. Is that even possible?
Well, I think the 8mm question, that's more of a Julian kind of question. 'Cause that's just about, on my end, it would just be getting someone to interpret the footage and re-editing it.
Okay.
It wouldn't be that big of a deal.
Okay.
As for my background, I actually was a writer-director for quite a long time, until I was actually sitting next to someone, I think my sophomore year of college, and they were complaining about editing. And I was like, you're complaining about editing? This is the best part. This is when it all comes together. They're like, maybe you should try doing that for other people then. And it kind of just snowballed from there. Julian and I had worked together, I think, on 3 projects before Last Party.
Okay.
So we were well versed with each other.
and it was just a blast to come into. I actually got to AD on set as well, so I had a huge
Nice.
part. Yeah, it was really fun to be on set with everyone. And I'm also an extra in the movie. I don't know if you caught it. But if you look in the credits, I'm Zed.
Oh my God, really? How cool.
Yeah.
Did not notice that.
No. I have one line in the movie. It's not a very good one.
Absolute legend.
Well, now
It's
that
a
I know,
lovely Easter egg.
well,
Yeah.
sometimes though extras can really stand out. I know that they think that they don't. You know, I have a big heart for extras, especially now with the climate and the way things are going. Clearly, it's going to make life even harder for them. But you know, sometimes it's almost impossible to have a complete picture without having that little cluster. You know what I mean? You really need that to make the scene bigger and brighter than it is already. But now that I know that you've done 3 different things in the creative world, so now I have to ask you, now that you've been doing editing a while, is the passion now in editing, or do you feel like you'll go back and tweet and put together some good writing?
I am for sure an editor through and through is what I'm pursuing at this point. Yeah, I'm looking into my next feature at the moment. When Julian makes his next thing, I'll be editing with him again.
Oh, nice.
And I've been doing a bunch of short films and even a pilot in the meantime. So,
You betcha. Now, collectively, all of you can answer this, of course, because as I mentioned yesterday, you know, it takes a village to put together a creation such as this. So I want you all to tell me the most frustrating moment you had while making this movie. Like you were like throwing something like, I'm done right now. Because there's always that moment, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can think of
my goodness.
basically it was my hardest scenes with Samantha. It was that upstairs fight, and then it was on her entry stairway. Those took the most work. They took a long time. There was a lot of discussion with Julian, you know, going into another room, discussing, you know, getting a little one-on-one with Julian, trying different lines while our mouths are not, you know, visible to the camera. And it was a real bummer with the stairway scene, because that we did the entire thing and it was tough and it was, you know, harrowing. And then we get back and the sound is ruined, and so we had to do it all over again.
Oh,
So that was
the same day too. We reshot it the same day.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. Oh, that's horrid. Anna, what about you?
It's the first thing that came to mind, and it was just shooting outside in January. I'm the person that doesn't like the cold. And the rooftop scene with Gabe, who plays Steven, was just every time we were off camera was just like huddled in like a duvet with hand warmers. That was,
I hear you.
it's not active. It's not necessarily craft related. I just didn't like being cold.
I don't blame you. I'd be the same way there. Like, yeah, this was fun, but yeah, let's move on to when it's like June and warm. I totally get that. And as for you folks on the bottom, obviously you're the reins of everything. So what was the biggest frustration for you?
Oh, I mean, the one that James pointed out, where we needed to reshoot a scene, that was like, oof, big moment. But actually, to be honest, the most frustrating part for me was pre-production. And I think it was just like some point in December, you know, we rehearsed, like a lot of the stuff had been bought, but like we were in kind of that Christmas season where no one's in town, but we're about to shoot in like 5 days or so.
Sure.
I think that was probably the most incredibly stressful part to me, because it was at that point, I think, you know, everything could fall apart tomorrow. You know, we don't have a single frame of footage shot, that all this work you've done could be for nothing. And just pushing through those last 10 days of December and like getting like all the costumes in place, because we had a production designer drop out on us actually, that like just picking up any slack, because you know, you just needed to, because the movie needed to get done, but it didn't really work to blame anyone. It just worked to like, again, like make sure everything was right so that we would be successful, you know, in our like 20 something days of shooting.
20 something.
I remember being home for at my mom's house for Christmas, and also having to go costume shopping and sending Julian photos.
Yeah.
It
all worked out.
That's awesome. Absolutely. And then Benjamin, of course, what's the most frustrating part about being part of this project during the whole shooting scenario?
During the whole shooting thing. Okay, I think there was one moment that popped up actually during the Ed and June scenes, so in their apartment, where we're trying to figure out if we have legal rights to show like a painting that someone did that's in frame.
Oh
And we
gosh.
kept going back and forth, and it was the unit production manager Kevin, and the DP like fought for like I think like 10 or 15 minutes about it. And as ADM, I was just trying to be like, okay, come on, let's cool down, let's keep going. And luckily, like they're such good friends, like we were able to put it aside at the end. I think we just took it out of the shot and we're just like, it'll look a little weird, whatever, it's fine. I don't even think we used the shot is the worst.
Oh my
part.
gosh.
But like wasting that much time and having like tensions rise on set. This is a very chill set for the most part, but that was probably the most frustrating moment for me.
Well, and I was just sitting here thinking, as we talked about earlier, there is a whole lot of sensuality and some, different portions of sexuality that go on in here. So it begs to have to ask the question, on this big set where you're filming for 20 some days, did we have any malfunctions? Any embarrassing moments?
Not so much. I mean, I think that everyone was pretty professional and stuff.
Sure.
That like we kind of knew that we were all in this together. That those moments when we wanted to bite each other's heads off, that were far and few between. It would just be like a nice apology and then like a shared meal later, and
Of
then you're
course.
fine.
Absolutely. Sure.
Yeah.
That's good to hear, actually, because nowadays, it's tough when you're in tight quarters and you're putting so many people together all at once and you only have so much time to get the shot. One little thing goes wrong, it sets off a chain reaction for everything, clearly. One of the judges had mentioned, and I think I talked a bit about this yesterday, the potential of taking this to another level, meaning episodic television, or for instance, doing another short or another feature. Do you have a clear line in the sand, meaning you'll never consider this or this, or?
No, there's no line in the sand. I mean, we, Kevin and I, the co-writer, have talked about like what we would do with this if someone liked the film enough to fund like again a web series. I think we plotted out a preliminary like, oh, this is probably where you would take a first season, or like a short about Charlie and Caroline's relationship. That I don't want to close the door on Last Christmas Party yet. Maybe that's me being sentimental.
Yes.
But yeah, I think it'll remain a little bit open for at least a little bit longer. So
you betcha. What do you guys think of the name change? Because all this time I was like, oh, it's this. And then it's like, oh no, it's this now. I'm like, oh look, a whole nother movie kind of sort of. So what the heck?
Oh, well, because the thing is we got picked up for distribution. And I think that, a very intelligent point that the executive producer made was that it's like, this is a holiday movie, but no one will ever know that, judging by like just hearing the name Last Party. And we were like, oh shit, he's right. That, we think that Christmas plays a big element in it. Even just the mood, it makes it feel more bittersweet, and like it just kind of goes along with the romances that way. That we were like, it is worth, the slight name change and the agony and the pain of that. To get Christmas in the title and to just kind of give the uninitiated viewer, all right, this is what to expect from our movie. Because I think it didn't occur to us when we first titled it that it's like there would be people who didn't know us at all possibly watching this movie, and we want the title to again set the mood, set the stage right, so you can kind of figure out, do I want to watch this at a festival or online and stuff like that.
I get you.
Or just during like the holiday season.
That's perfect, actually. Now, with the nominations that you got from Art is Alive, what are you at, about 700 nominations and awards right now? Just
no, I mean, because a lot of festivals have unfortunately just been canceled. And again, kudos to Art is Alive for just like keeping on trucking. Because no, like, seriously, Cindy, because it's like literally so many people just threw in the towel at the first sign of trouble, and we're like, oh, bye, like here's your festival feedback, and it's like, all right, that's nice, I hope you're okay, but still, like, there are ways of doing a festival online that we don't have as many nominations, but we're blessed enough definitely to still be getting into the festivals that are still happening. So,
sure. And you're getting wins, and you got distribution, and you have more nominations now. And did I mention the beautiful cast that no one is ugly? Oh, sorry, I mentioned that yet. So before, God, our timeout, why does all this time go so quick? It's like, do you ever get on these and you're like, I could talk all
Oh
day.
yeah.
Journalists
Oh
could
yeah,
talk
all day.
I
No,
mean, I
it's
could
like
come up with 80
so much to say
like,
about
questions.
this. Like, yeah.
So this is what I want to say to you. First of all, again, congratulations that you guys have gotten so much love and attention for this. I am now a fan. And I love all of the films that I screen, but becoming a fan and watching the progression of where people go from here is always very important to me. Julian, I should mention to you that my actor, if you're still doing that virtual table read, is interested.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I was on at like
please.
3 a.m. and I showed it to Michael and he's like, I should get a hold of him. So I'm like, here's Julian right here. So if you're still looking, I can connect.
Oh, we'll connect.
Yes,
after- yeah,
absolutely.
after that works.
So the last thing I want to do before I go off to my virtual red carpet is I always like to do shameless promotion. And since you're all in the industry, we'll start with Anna. Tell us what's next and tell everybody where to find you.
I am findable at Anna Claire Kerr on Instagram. My website is annaclairekerr.com. And next is whatever the next job will be. I've had a couple things canceled because of COVID, and
Sure.
but things are starting to pick up. Like I have to put myself on tape for an audition like right after this. Like things are happening again. So hopefully
Good.
I'll have good news soon.
Or tonight
James? Hope.
at like 9 something. Okay.
Yeah, my primary income is voiceover, and I don't really have a home studio, so I haven't been getting a lot of that recently. But I am part of a group called 239 Arts.
Okay.
We produce, original creative content. So check out Filthy Rich. It is a web series provided on
I love
YouTube.
how he does that. Filthy rich.
And yeah,
Because
I've
we're
seen it. It's
not.
great.
You're
It's
indie.
really
We're
fun.
broke, but rich
Yes.
in talent.
Filthy
Broke
Rich
but
is
rich.
the perfect web series for people trapped in a house during a pandemic, as it is 12 people at a party who can't leave. And there's a little murder, there's a little
Ooh, a little murder.
stuff for everyone. And I'm actually I'm on the writing team for a new musical by that same group, 239 Arts.
Nice. Very, very nice. I will make sure to check that out. Thank you. All right, Benjamin, what about you? Obviously, you're in love with editing, so I'm guessing it's an editing project.
Oh, believe it or not, you're right. I just finished editing 2 things: a short film called "The Turtle in the Sink" that hopefully will be doing some festival runs. It's a hilarious thing about a freshman in college who goes home with a much older woman and does not realize what he's getting himself into. I think the first thing that happens when he gets there is she does like coke on the toilet. So
Oh
it's,
boy.
it goes a little nuts. It's a comedy. It's actually got a lot of heart. And it's a good time. And then the other thing I just finished working on was a TV pilot called Troop 264. That's currently in sound, so I'll let you know what happens with that.
Please do. Absolutely. And Mr. Julian, what about you?
Yes. So follow me on Technicolor_Julian on Instagram, or check out City Bear Media on Facebook. Either one works. We announce everything through everything. So
Okay.
basically, as you know, we're trying to get our second feature, just like, getting the script working, getting it
Okay.
read, that we're doing a read through and we're casting for that. So anyone feel free to apply. But it's an exciting time because it's nice to be in the early stages of something again and just starting afresh. But yeah, that's our big. It's a horror script and it takes place in the 1960s at like this Catholic college, and hopefully it's spooky. So
Oh my
I guess
goodness gracious.
I guess we'll see. But definitely check out James's Filthy Rich. That's awesome.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's really fun.
Ben and I watched that together and we loved it.
Well, I look forward to checking out all of your individual projects. As you might know, I also sent you links for the rest of the day. So of course, you're welcome to go to any of the other films that are going on today. Michael's screening is at 5:30 today. So funny you should mention horror.
Yes.
This is more, I'm disturbed. I had to watch it again last night. And it was like, yeah, no, I really don't. And then I've had to watch it more than I want to. And now I'm like, I thought by now I'd get used to it because he's just awful. I mean, he's just, this is a sign of an incredible actor when they can come on stage or screen in this case and play something that I don't even want to sleep next to you, which is kind of
Mhm.
it. So I'll be a lot better like when I don't have to keep looking at it again and again and again. But it's worth watching. You'll
Sure, I've heard, yeah.
appreciate it. It's definitely different in avant-garde. So we'll see. But please join us. Please do. And I hope to see all of your faces tonight. And good luck. I wish you nothing but good luck for tonight. And we'll see you guys soon. And thank you.
All right. Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
one.
you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. See you soon.
Later.
I hope
Bye.
in another
Yeah.
outfit or another panel or another
Who
something.
knows? The future's in flux. We'll see.
Yes.
Gosh, do I need another outfit?
Yes. I'll be having 2 more outfits today. So yeah, wait for it.